We have our speaker, Arohi Naik. Arohi is a security engineer at SQR and brings both technical depth and a human-focused lens to her work. With a master's in cybersecurity and experience across many sectors of cybersecurity, she is passionate about creating security solutions that are not just effective, but also inclusive and user-aware. So, Arohi, with Beyond the Pink, data risks in Femtech you can't ignore.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Are we all up after the break with some good coffee? Well, I'm Arohi. I'm a security engineer at SQR, and today I'm presenting on Beyond the Pink, data risks in Femtech you can't ignore. Let's get started. So before I get started, this is my passion project. So I'm not associated with any company. This is I started looking into a period tracker for myself, and then I went into a rabbit hole of data privacy issues, I would say. And that's why I'm here presenting today now. So what is Femtech? Femtech, or female technology, is a term used to define software and services that use technology tailored towards women's health. This includes fertility trackers, period trackers, pregnancy and nursing care, women's sexual health and wellness, and reproductive system healthcare. So Femtech is not just confined to mobile applications, but it also includes wearables like your Fitbit. Then there are telehealth services that also come under Femtech. These services have been in place since a long, long time, since early 2000s, but they got traction after the Roe versus Wade Flow app controversy in 2021. And since then, there have been so many claims that these apps share users' personal data with analytics solutions or marketing companies like Meta or Google. And here are the industry insights. So if you see this is just for the UK. So based on a growth rate of 30.8%, Femtech is expected to be worth more than 668.3 million in a couple years. Isn't that insane? I think that is the whole reason why we need to speak up more about this. So you might know some of these apps: Flow, Clue, Maya, Eve. So these are all period trackers or fertility trackers. Some of them are also called as digital contraceptives nowadays. So they advertise like that. But do you sense a theme going on in here? Does it all not look too pink to you? I think it is a bit stereotypical, to be honest, but I will leave that to you. Of course, pink is used for marketing, as it is a feminine color and it is used for visibility and inclusion. However, it's just too pink, isn't it? That's one of the reasons why the name Beyond the Pink. Also, have you heard about pink tax? A while ago, Megan gave a talk about how women pay more in this digital world, and I guess that defines pink tax. So pink tax usually is associated with women paying more for everyday products like your razors or shampoos, deodorants, etc. It is not associated with Femtech as such. However, I think with AI-powered insights, and then there are premium versions, premium subscriptions of Femtech apps now, I think pink tax has found its way into Femtech as well. And not just that, I think with the Femtech apps, we give so much of our personal data that pink tax isn't about money anymore. It has taken the form of privacy costs, data exploitation, or emotional labor rather than direct price markups. So what is beyond pink? I think it's purple. Do you think I'm kidding? I'm not. So pink and purple. Purple is the second most color used by Femtech apps. I get it that it's for marketing purposes. Color psychology is really powerful when it comes to marketing. But do you think that these colors used by especially Femtech? So Femtech was traditionally built for empowering women or as an empowering resource for women's health. But I think with the pink and purple colors and very empowering slogans, it's trying to reproduce the same tropes that it was at first built to go away from. So what actually is beyond pink? Behind these friendly colors and empowerment slogans like period power, your health simplified, my favorite is all natural birth control powered by your body's signals. All of this sounds empowering, isn't it? But is it really? If we look closer beyond the branding, you might see there lies a complex ecosystem of data, algorithms, and sometimes invisible risks. Let's get into some more technicalities here. So when you download any app, just any app, not just a Femtech app, you give your device data for notifications and app usage, like your user ID, device ID, which is again general data, which every app takes. No problem with that. But then they also take your behavioral data, which I think is a bit problematic. There are a lot of Femtech apps that take up data for mood tracking. So you log your mood every day in it, which is very insightful. However, it's still a practice of data collection that might have major repercussions later if we think about it that way. Well, to talk about Femtech apps, these apps also take your login, so your name, email address, contact information. Some of them ask you for location, or when you say yes to all tracking, your location is automatically taken. And then there is payment information if you choose a premium subscription. So this data, like your name, email, contact information, this is all called PII, which is personally identifiable information. So if this is misused, it can directly harm the user. However, what goes unnoticed with Femtech apps is the collection of very intimate and sensitive data, which is the real privacy concern here. So we are not just talking about cycle logging. With menstrual cycle data, it also takes your ovulation test results, pregnancy tracking like conception date, due date, miscarriage history, menopause symptoms, birth control usage. As I said earlier, they're also called as digital contraceptives nowadays. Then there is sexual health data, mental health and emotional well-being, weight and body measurements, BMI, exercise and lifestyle data, your workout routines, your water intake as well sometimes, which comes under diet and nutrition tracking. Then sleep patterns, breastfeeding and lactation data if you have a child, medical history and doctor visits. Some of the apps do also ask you to log your doctor visits, and they give you AI-powered health insights as well nowadays, with a short disclaimer that this is not medical advice. But it is written in so small font, like 5 pixels, but whatever. It's difficult to see, and when it's an emergency for anyone, any user, we conveniently ignore the disclaimer and just go on with it, like we do ChatGPT nowadays. So why is it so sensitive as information? I'll give you an example. Suppose a woman just had a child and she's logging all her data into the app now. So she's trying to log her breastfeeding schedule every day, and the app is also tracking her location in the background. If that data is leaked somehow or sold, and it's in the hands of data brokers or abusers. Just think about it. They have a whole digital portfolio of her life. They know when and where she is with her child alone, at the most vulnerable. And this is not just a digital risk anymore, it's more of a safety risk. That's why it's so important to know what data are we giving to the apps. Most of the times, unknowingly, we do say yes to a lot of tracking. You see, you open an app, it asks you for like read terms and conditions and say yes. The I agree is always in bold, first of all. So it's easy to spot it and just say yes. Also, all these terms and conditions or privacy policies are so long, complex, full of jargon. So it's tough to keep up. I understand. Do you think this much information is needed for these apps to predict your cycle? If it's just to predict your cycle, I think when I was young, my mom told me to log my cycle on a physical calendar, and that worked really well. Do you think some of the information is actually unnecessary, like location data? Why do we need it? What is the guarantee that this data is collected and handled wisely? Well, all of the apps now do have privacy policies where they mention how they collect and handle the data. However, do we actually read them? 90% of the times we don't. Because again, they are long and complex. It's difficult. But if you take time to read them, you might find some ambiguity in language. They use terms like we may share your data with trusted partners, or your data is used to improve our services. It sounds really harmless, but it's so vague. Who are these trusted partners? Or what data is used to improve what kind of services? It's never mentioned. Again, with the apps, if you really want to delete your data or stop some tracking or opt out of some things, there are options in the app, but they are buried so deep down that they are difficult to find. Also, there was a study in 2022 which said that people were really scared after what happened with Flow and they started deleting the app. But that does not really mean that your data is being deleted. These apps do have data deletion requests, which takes, they say, about 4 weeks, but might take longer. But again, we don't know if the data is deleted completely or not. Then there is third party involvement, integration with variables, analytics, and marketing tools, which means that your data is often traveling beyond the app, letting others in the chain to profit from it. For example, in one of these apps policy, before I go there, there's a really good study by Mozilla. Megan mentioned it earlier. So it gives you a rating of all these apps from their privacy policies, from their creepiness level, like most to least. And they did this survey in 2021 for all the Femtech apps. So I thought that let's read the privacy policies again now because it's been 3-4 years now. So I thought that there might be some improvement. But to my surprise, there was not. So all these privacy policies had this magical term with your consent before every sentence they started. And when it comes to third-party involvement, so they say that if you sync your app with a variable, so that's where their responsibility ends with the data collection. So they don't take any responsibility of how the data is controlled by the variable afterwards. And if you go to the website of the variable and read the policies there, they say we get our data from third parties and we are not responsible how it is collected. So it's a legal loophole. Another issue there's no single or legal regulatory framework for just Femtech. We have seen how much Femtech is evolving. Every day there's a new app, there's a new startup who want to empower women. But here we are. So there are three key frameworks in the UK, one of which is MDR, which is Medical Devices Regulation. Then there is ASA, Advertising Standards and Codes, and then there's UK GDPR. Each of these raise questions of regulatory advocacy. So MDR ensures that if any app is a medical device, then they should have a UK CE or CE certification, which many of the apps don't. Why? Because they are not termed as medical apps. They label themselves as health and fitness, which is absolutely problematic. There is, these apps collect your fertility data and your ovulation cycles and everything like that, which is termed as medical. Also, when the apps give you health advice over AI, it is still giving health advice. Even if they say in the disclaimer that this is not medical advice and you should seek a doctor, but you are still giving some kind of health advice. And that's why the label should be medical and not health and fitness. But if you see most of the famous apps like Flow, Clue, all of them are labeled as health and fitness rather than medical. So again, they label themselves as wellness tools or lifestyle tools rather than medical devices, which means that they can bypass the safety testing and oversight by MDR. Also, MDR has a clause in in the regulation that they say the vendor or the processor of the app is to decide the intended purpose of the app, and on that basis they would then go for like security checks for the apps. But then again, it is all skewed somehow because they just label it as a lifestyle tech and not medical in the real sense. Then when it comes to ASA, Advertising Standards and Codes. So ASA gives guidelines to influencers or marketers how to market those apps with correct labeling, with correct words to use. But these are just guidelines. So unless somebody complains against it, there is no action taken. And right now, there is a lack of literacy, I would say, or awareness around these things that nobody complains. Then there's UK GDPR. GDPR works around sensitive information, or PII, personally identifiable information. And all this data, like Femtech apps, whatever they collect, it comes under sensitive data. However, when it comes to developers, they don't necessarily see it as uniquely sensitive data, but just another form of data. And I guess that is where we need the mindset shift. How would a privacy-first future in Femtech look like? Have you heard about the concept of security by design? So when you incorporate security from the very starting phase of your app building or any kind of project, it's called security by design. But when it comes to Femtech apps, I think we need to think about privacy first. Technically, the data that you need to process for your, just to get insights over your cycle, or just for the Femtech app to work, it can be processed on device. And if you know about Apple's Health app, it does process all the data on your device and then backs it up to cloud if you agree to it. There's another app called Yuki, which processes all the data on device and you can use it offline. But this is not the norm. In 2024 October, this was a statistic saying that Flow and Clue together had more than 250 million users in a year, which is just crazy. And all these apps ask for so many questions to you. If you have a missed period, they ask you like 10 questions over it. What is going on exactly? And these apps also have a feature to sync your app with your partner's device or anybody else's device. However, and this would be really surprising that there's no encryption in between. And these apps, if you go on online and search if there's encryption involved, the apps themselves claim that they don't have it right now. So yeah, the data is flowing outside. Also, of course, all of these apps use cloud backups, which again leads to a lot of vulnerabilities in itself. But when we can process the data on device, why do you need to back it up to cloud? There's no user controlled deletion or even backups. So all these apps do default backups to cloud, and I think they should ask you if you want to back your data up or not. And again, user control deletion, I guess it's still in our hands that we go onto the app, search for the delete data button inside the app somewhere, and then go on deleting it, or raise a data deletion request with the vendors. In terms of policy regulation, yes, I think there should be MDR supervision, even if the app is not medically labeled. But I think all Femtech apps should be regulated in some way, at least. We need clearer data protection guidelines, transparent app labeling, and of course, accountability for company and influencer claims. When we talk about Femtech apps, a lot of these companies are small teams, lesser resources, and that's why they take compliance just as a checkbox. But with this much intimate information going on into the app, I do think that we need to go beyond compliance. Well, while I was working on this, I was thinking this is so much close to me as a person, and it if my data is breached, I don't think I would feel bad for my reputation or my data as such, or if my money is gone into it. But I would definitely feel shameful, and there would be a lack of identity, I guess. I would go through an identity crisis. Lot of the times we don't think about things like data breaches in terms of personal harm, but it is always thought about in terms of reputational damage or monetary damage. That's why I thought I should come up with a socio-technical threat model. And how many of you know about threat modeling in general? That's cool. So yeah, so we are identifying threats before we get into the defensive mechanisms. So let's go to through the focus areas here. So what are our assets right now? Personal or intimate health data, behavioral metadata, user identities, shared privacy, and user-generated content. When I say shared privacy, it means that they are not taking just my data, but it's the concept of collective privacy, which means that when I log my data into the Femtech app, I am directly or indirectly logging the data of my partner or my child in there. Then we have threat actors, devs, insider threats, advertisers and data brokers, employers, governments, abusive partners in community, stalkers, and cybercriminals. So when it comes to employers, let's see this as an example. If a woman is working in a big organization and someday her Femtech app's data is leaked. Now everyone knows that she's trying to conceive. And conveniently, her manager passes her over for a promotion. Sounds like an extreme example, but could happen. And this is the reason for workplace discrimination and stigmatization around it. Then we have attack vectors, dark patterns, SDKs, GPS, APIs, coercion and surveillance, inferred disclosures. A lot of these apps get your data and conclude or make assumptions from just that part of the data. Again, when you log your cycle or your fertility information, that is not your identity, but the apps do assume things about you and make conclusions, and then that's how they give you health advice. Impact or risk. Privacy violation, of course. Surveillance and profiling, we saw with the earlier example how it can be a physical safety risk now. Data monetization, of course. Discrimination, emotional and social stress. Emotional and social stress is something we disregard all the time with any kinds of data breaches, I think. And it should not be like that. Critical gaps, weak or manipulative consent mechanisms. Yes, they just ask you if you want to say yes to all tracking. And sometimes there's no option to even see what all tracking means. So there we need more specific information about what exactly are you tracking. Lack of data minimization. A lot of these apps say that they anonymize your data before sending it forward or downward the line with your syncing devices and everything. But there's been study that you can still trace back to the clear text original data pretty easily, even with data minimization and anonymization measures. There's absence of collective privacy safeguards, algorithmic bias and lack of transparency. Algorithmic bias, again, a big thing with AI right now, that the model is trained on a specific demographic and assumptions are made for everyone. Psychological harms, over-reliance on flawed AI, false reassurance, health anxiety, and obsessive tracking. Like, just say you're very tired, you go home, you just want to doom scroll through Instagram reels. It's the same addictive pattern with tracking as well. It asks you so many questions, then you get into, oh, I can track my water intake, I can track my diet and nutrition, all through one app. Isn't it amazing? And that's how you get more into tracking. And that's how, I guess, we rely on these apps too much sometimes. Even if somewhere we know that this is not the truth of it, but with AI, like ChatGPT, and this is the ease of access, isn't it? That makes us very complacent with tech in general. And that's the thing, Femtech apps were traditionally built to empower women and not scare away or not to lose trust in digital care. I think that's why it's an important discussion to have today. Our health data belongs to us, not advertisers, governments, or corporations. It's time to demand privacy in Femtech. I really want to urge everyone to be aware, ask questions where they are needed, and take control of your data. Overall, I think it's a systemic issue, so no one app, even if they are completely, privacy first and following all regulations, they can change it or fix these things because your data can easily be exploited down the line. But yeah, I guess we are starting with awareness today, so I'm glad. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Arohi. That was very
you.
insightful. Do we have any questions for Arohi? No? Thank you, Arohi.
Thank you. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and I write blogs on cybersecurity on Substack. I've recently started I try to make complex cybersecurity concepts really easy for everyone. So please subscribe. Thank you.